Unfortunate for the New York Knicks, but Julius Randle is set to have season-ending
Mhm.
surgery on his shoulder. So let me open up the floor to you first, TB. How do you feel about this, and how is that going to impact the Knicks?
You know, I think the Knicks already knew this. They prepared for it. If you look at a lot of their moves during the trade deadline, the writing was on the wall. And I'm gonna be completely honest. If you want to go even further, the writing might be on the wall for Julius Randle's era in the New York. Not I don't want to say as a New York Knick, but more so as their number one guy. I think Jalen Brunson has shown that you can build around him. And we've also seen that it hasn't worked enough with Julius Randle because though he's a monster scorer, he's questionable shot attempts. Sometimes crazy to the point where you're like, bro, get this dude off my team type stuff. Like it gets crazy. But with that said, this extended time away has allowed us to see Brunson by himself while they've slightly adjusted to build around him, and that's actually helped them. They've played pretty well. So I think if they take this offseason a bit seriously with regard to building around Brunson as a whole, Julius Randle might soon be in a New Jersey very quickly. We might see a trade during this offseason, a blockbuster trade. He might get to I can't see them trading him to a team that's not worth anything because Julius Randle is still a guy that can provide quality basketball to a winning team. But I just don't know if it's in New York anymore. Him being hurt, I don't think it moves the needle. Like whether if he came back, I don't know that they're going any further than what they'll go in the playoffs right now. And with him being gone, I feel like they're one of those teams where they are a pretty good team and they're on the precipice of getting to that next level. But we all know they're not quite there yet. So despite them getting better, despite them having an amazing year, I'll say, I their ceiling is Eastern Conference Finals, and that's a stretch to me at least. So it's one of those things where it is unfortunate for Julius Randle. Prayers up to him. Hope he has a great surgery. But it's not doing anything, whether good or bad, for this team, in my opinion.
So, in your opinion, whether they had Julius Randle or not, you think that they were still going to make it to same place? They were still going to have the same round
Yeah,
exit? Okay,
I
okay,
do.
okay. So for me, I'm not gonna lie, I'm a little bit on the other side of the fence with it. So, the addition of OG, I mean, it looks even better now, right? Because like how you mentioned, maybe you or some other people out there saw the writings on the wall, and especially with the New York Knicks, so they were like, let's bring a player like OG to try to fill in
Mhm.
what we're going to be missing with Randall. But regardless of how you break it down, bro, I don't think OG is going to be able to provide what Randall was doing offensively. I mean, the
Yeah.
last year he averaged 25 points, 10 rebounds. This current season he was playing every game for the Knicks up until he went down, and was averaging 24 points per game, 9 rebounds, 5 assists. Had a streak earlier this season where he had 19 consecutive games with 20 points or more. So as the scorer and offensively, I do think the Knicks are going to miss out a lot, because especially around playoff time, and you tell me if you can resonate with this, but it's like, I think in the playoffs it boils down to just like who can get a bucket no matter what. Like whether regardless of
Yeah.
or regardless whether it's a two, or regardless of you just getting to the line. A lot of the times in the playoffs, it's like you get installmates, and or the defense just is throwing you so many different looks your way that you just need a player who can just go get a bucket no matter the
Mhm.
situation. And they got that in Jalen Brunson. But I think to have another one in Julius Randle, and now to lose him, like, that really, really hurts. And I didn't have the Knicks going all the way, but what I do think is I do think that Julius Randle could have helped him to make it a little bit further, because we know Julius Randle of having this like playoff dropper title. But I think the reason that he has that playoff dropper title is because he's been seeing 1A coverages, because I feel like every year before last year he was the 1A guy. Now with Jalen Brunson on this team, I absolutely agree with you. Jalen Brunson's the 1A guy. But what does that mean though? That means that playoffs comes around, that Jalen Brunson's gonna get 1A attention, and Randall's gonna get what, 1B attention, 1C attention, however you break it down. And with that, I think he could be a little bit more successful. So I do think that, I mean, this is gonna affect the Knicks a lot, because like I said, I think you're losing out on a scorer who can just at any time go get a bucket. But also indirectly, another way that this really affects the Knicks, Steph, is the fact that with Julius Randle now being out, the defense says, "Hey, yo, like all that 1B, 1C attention, let's all put that on Jalen Brunson." And Jalen Brunson's a small guard. So I think this is going to be tough. Talk to
Now,
me.
to respond to that point, and it's harder to see it with regards to looking at the numbers, but and it's gonna sound crazy, I know it is,
Talk
but
to me.
in the last 25 games, you want to know who's averaged 20 points? An unsung hero. He's won me a lot of bread in in this
Prize picks?
betting thing
Oh,
too. Yeah, all that. Dante DiVincenzo.
he
He has
stepped
been
up.
hooping out of
Hooping.
his mind. Josh Hart has been hooping out of his mind. Like when we talk about the additions, we do look at the OG Anunoby, the big addition, but those other small additions on the way, they've stepped up to levels that we didn't expect at all. And I think they're helping to fill that void. You got Miles McBride stepping up. Who would have thought he would have stepped up into a greater role than just being a bona fide scorer, being the spark plug kind of guy? He's become a pretty good facilitator for that bench unit. And you know, I personally was like, the Knicks lost all their bucket getters. I felt that way. Emmanuel
Mhm.
quickly out of there. We're not gonna act like RJ is like the best bucket getter, but
He can get a
he has
bucket.
some good games, and he can't get a bucket. They had Bohan Bogdanovich for like they had some bucket getters on this team, and it was like, okay, where are they going with the addition of? And I think I'm more so high on DiVincenzo because I was always down on him. And the more I was down and the more I kept saying, he's not going to keep performing. He's not going to keep doing this. He just got better game in and game out. There was a stretch where I remember he dropped 28. That was like the first time I was like, I don't see it. I think it was against Charlotte.
Mhm.
Then he had 30 the next game. Then he had 20. And then against the Lakers, he like rounded it off with 26. And then he went off like a couple nights with 32, 36. And I think he almost had 40 another night. And at that point, I was like, okay, DiVincenzo might be able to fill in this role, especially with two guys next to him that he's comfortable with in Jalen Brunson and Josh Hart, Villanova guys that's another portion to it. I'm high on Villanova guys, especially when we get to playoff basketball. Those are some of the most mature basketball players that we see in the league. And yes, it does hurt losing Julius Randle, but I think the kind of heart that those guys got, they can make up for that. Not not so much individually on a nightly basis, but you can get two guys like a DiVincenzo and Hart stepping up this night, or a McBride and a Hartenstein stepping up this night. And if you can get different nights where different guys are helping Brunson, I think that can fill that void of Julius Randle. And I also think that them getting Anunoby was them recognizing that portion of the void, the offensive void, could be
Mhm.
filled, while Anunoby can fill the defensive void. Now we have a culmination of Julius Randle at a much cheaper price tag. So I think that's more so where they were going with that, because, like we were saying before, I feel like with Randle, oftentimes we saw the ball stop a lot on the offensive end in his hands, and then we see a BS jump shot go up. So I don't know. I like how they kind of, I guess the best way to put it, they broke Julius Randle into different pieces on this team, pretty much.
I like that. I like that a lot. So I guess to end this little Nick and Julius Randle talk, to you, the Knicks are they're in a great position for, I guess, for the upcoming offseason. Regardless of what
For sure.
happens, they're in a great position. To you, if you're in that Knicks front office, do you go ahead and look to ship off Randle for even more pieces to build, like how you said, instead of breaking up having Randle in one player, you want to have him in a whole bunch of different players and different positions, or do you look to keep Randall?
Well, without really seeing their salary
Mhm.
situation, just
Just hoops,
talking,
yeah.
yeah. That I think that's a guy you keep
Mhm.
regardless. Now I know that goes against what I just said, but we also know this new CBA
Yep,
punishes you for
yep.
shipping off guys, especially guys that you drafted. So it'll probably be fruitful for you guys to either ride off his contract, or and I don't know what his contract is, but if he has a year or two left, then okay, we can ship him off, see what we can do. But what I think might be fruitful for now, try to keep him, integrate him, keep him with the core that you have right now that has been playing well while he's out. See if he can be integrated into that. And that just makes your team that much better. If it doesn't work for the next year and a half or so, then okay, we're at the tail end of his deal. We can see about shipping him off, and it'll be at a much cheaper price tag as opposed to how much ever he's worth right now.